What is up, fantasy fans? As always, I'm Shay from the channel Zachary Shay, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite comics of all time. This is my third or fourth episode of Getting Graphic, a series where I talk about graphic novels that do not require any prior DC universe or Marvel universe or whatever universe understanding, things that can be read and absorbed solely on their own as a standalone experience. Usually I go for shorter books, but today I'm talking about Saga of the Swamp Thing. Maybe the world has run out of room for monsters, or maybe they're just getting harder to recognize. Do we immerse ourselves in fictional horror as a way of numbing our emotions to its real-life counterpart? It's raining in Washington tonight. Plump, warm summer rain that covers the sidewalks with leopard spots. Downtown, elderly ladies carry their houseplants out to set them on the fire escapes, as if they were infirm relatives or boy kings. I like that. Please don't go. It's lonely. There's a hole in my head as big as the world, and it's so very lonely. It's collected in 6 volumes. They're almost always kept in print. This is one of the greatest DC runs of all time, so DC is smart in that they're always keeping it, easy to find. Just look up Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, Saga of the Swamp Thing, and it'll take you right to it. For those uninitiated, the character of Swamp Thing is a man named Alec Holland who falls into this swamp where these chemicals are, and he gets turned into the Swamp Thing. But that isn't really that important for this, because what this does is it doesn't keep the story of Alec Holland going. I mean, it does carry that story forward, but this is very much a deconstruction of that character. And there's a lot more mystical stuff going on. It's supernatural, cosmic horror. But at the heart of it, what differentiates this from something like Neil Gaiman's Sandman, which I know a lot of people love, I personally bounced off the second or third volume. I plan to get back to it. But to me, a lot of Sandman read as just very dark for the sake of dark and a little bit depraved. This is just as horrific as Sandman without the depravity, in my opinion. You can see it in his prose work. To me, Alan Moore is one of the greatest prose writers of all time. I know he constantly gets praised for Watchmen. I personally think the greatest thing he's ever written is Jerusalem. But this is a close second. I really, really, really love this. And you can see his prose writing ability. You can see his skill at telling a long and ponderous epic. And like I said, it's not just depravity for the sake of depravity. These characters, there's a deep and rich romance at the center of the story between the Swamp Thing and Abby Arcane. It is beautiful. It is one of the greatest love stories in comics. And as weird as that sounds, like, he's literally plants and she's a human woman. Should not work. A lot of people are going to read this and think that aspect of it is weird, especially when they get into how their relationship works. People are going to think that's odd. And to me, it means a lot that love can transcend the simply like our basic biological urges, because like that is a real love. This is not just a sensual love. This is not just, like she fell in love with the embodiment of all of plant life on Earth. And the love he has for Abby is also beautiful. There's a lot of amazing little one-off anthology-like stories within this, but the overarching story is one of love, of compassion, of self-acceptance for the Swamp Thing, because he comes to terms with who he is and what that means, and how his perceived identity prior to Alan Moore taking over on this book is drastically different from who and what he actually is. I'm keeping the spoilers vague, but yeah, this story does a lot to shake up not only the character of Swamp Thing, but also the state of the sort of darker, occultish, magical aspects of the DC universe. And I know a lot of people love Sandman. There would be no Sandman without Swamp Thing. A lot of characters like Matthew the Raven, Cain and Abel, you see them come onto the stage in this. And it is Shakespearean, it is Lovecraftian, but it also has a ton of heart. And I genuinely believe Alan Moore is one of the greatest writers of our time. And while I do believe, like I said, I am more fond of his prose work. I'm actually very excited to read The Great Wen soon, but I've read his Jerusalem and I've read his Illumination short story collection, both of which I thought were magnificent. But if I were to recommend any comic by him over Watchmen, over V for Vendetta, I come back to Saga of the Swamp Thing. I think it is one of the greatest comic books I've ever read. Top 5 easily. And I don't think it gets the love it deserves. Within comic book circles, it is loved and it is appreciated. But within literary circles, Sandman is held up as this great comic, and it took a lot of influences from Swamp Thing. I won't say it is derivative because Alan Moore himself endorses Sandman and he loves Sandman. And while I did not enjoy Sandman, I know for Alan Moore to give it that endorsement, there is something there of quality. I may return to it again, buying it secondhand because I don't even want to touch the Neil Gaiman stuff, but yeah. But I plan to return to it again. I've heard from some people that it really gets better, and there were some issues that were really excellent that really felt like he was tapping into what Moore was working with. But then there were some that just kind of missed the mark. And to me, if you have any curiosity about Sandman, or you bounced off of it, or if you want something that feels like Neil Gaiman, but you don't really feel like reading Neil Gaiman, I cannot recommend Alan Moore enough. Same if you love Susanna Clark. If you like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, Piranesi, check out Saga of the Swamp Thing, check out Jerusalem. This man is a once-in-a-lifetime sort of storyteller. And while DC did him dirty, this is one of the best DC Comics runs of all time. Anyway, thanks guys. Peace.